Welcome to another edition of Sparky Help. This time we're going to be looking at the Adiabatic equation and checking for thermal constraints for sizing your earthing conductor. So what is the Adiabatic equation? Well, we can see it down at the bottom on here, and as it says, we are checking for thermal constraints because when a conductor gets hot with a fault current passing through it, it could go beyond its workable temperature, so therefore there are maximum temperatures that conductors have to work within, and we are specifically looking at the earth. So the adiabatic equation is S is equal to the square root of I squared times T divided by K. The adiabatic process is effectively what we're looking at is the cable getting hot, and it assumes that this heat cannot dissipate. Obviously in reality this heat would dissipate, but remember, under fault conditions it goes from next to no current to maximum current, and that will be there for the duration it takes the protective device to operate. So the conductor will get pretty hot in that duration. So it's making sure that it doesn't basically burn the place down. What does each of the letters mean? Well, we can get this from BS7671, it's from chapter 54, and we've got S. S is the minimum size of the protective conductor that we're trying to calculate. I is the actual fault current of the circuit that you are working on. So it's not the theoretical fault current, it's the actual fault current. T is not the theoretical disconnection time, it's the actual disconnection time based on this circuit with this fault current passing through it. And K, well, K is a factor, it's just a figure, it doesn't really have a unit, but it's based on the temperature coefficient, the resistivity of the material of the earth, of what that is made of, so whether it be copper, steel, aluminium or something completely different. And these are just figures that we actually find from within BS7671 from chapter 54. Well, what are we going to base this on? We're going to base this on a cable that was selected in the cable sizing video. So if you're not sure what we did, go look at cable sizing. I've also worked out the resistance of this particular cable in R1, R2, so go look at that. The cable size is a 16mm, 28 metres in length, and we're going to use a single core thermoplastic 70°C cable, and the circuit protective device is a 40A type B circuit breaker, and we're going to be installing it in trunking. Most of this information is sort of required when sizing the earth and checking for thermal constraints. We made an assumption in the last video on R1, R2, so go check it out, that the ZE would be 0.25, but obviously you use your ZE, whatever that happens to be. We're going to make an assumption, and we're going to assume that we're going to try and get away with a 6mm CPC instead of putting in, if we go by table 54.7 from BS7671, and this would avoid all of these calculations if we just put a standard 16mm earth with the 16mm live conductors. But we're going to try get away with a 6mm. You could go smaller, you could try it, you could try something slightly bigger if you so wish, but I've decided to opt for a 6mm CPC. I've already calculated the R1, R2, go check out the video to see how to do that. Let's look at the formula to confirm whether this CPC is acceptable or not. Well, we obviously know the formula. S is equal to square root I squared times T divided by K. Let us find the current first of all. Well, current, as we should all know, we need to know the ohmic value. So ZS is equal to ZE plus R1 and R2. Well, we've already made an assumption on that. ZE is 0.25. We've already calculated in a previous video 0.142, which is our R1, R2 for this particular circuit based on these cables. So therefore our ZS is 0.392 ohms. Remember, I've already calculated this up. This is at 70°C. Applying Ohm's law, IF, which is the fault current, is equal to UO divided by ZS. UO is a voltage to earth, and ZS obviously is the maximum earth fault loop impedance at the end point of this circuit. Putting these figures in, 230 divided by 0.392, and we get a fault current of 586.54 amps. You don't necessarily need to use the 2 decimal places. 586 is still a lot, and it's going to do the job, hopefully. We can put this one straight into our equation. That's our first number found. And next one we're going to look at is look at the disconnection time. Now remember, this is not the theoretical disconnection time, it is the actual disconnection time. So we're going to go to Appendix 3 of BS7671. Using the graph for a Type B circuit breaker, hopefully what we can see on here is there are our circuit breakers along the top. Hopefully you can see that. Our one is a 40 amp, so this bit here is the curved part, and I've done a video on chapter 41 where I go into a bit more detail about these, so go look at that one. But there's our curved part of our 40 amp, and then it goes vertical for the different aspects of a circuit breaker and what's actually working when. Side here we have time in seconds. Along the bottom across the x-axis we have our current, and it's the prospective current, and our prospective current is 586 amps, so that's not slightly short of 600. So they conveniently put a nice box in the middle just where you want to see, but we can just about see the lines here. There's the 100 amp line there, and if we go across, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 amps is that particular line there. So we are just below that. If I put a line up there, you will see that therefore is the 600 amp line, or just short of, so 586. Does it cross the 40 amp curve? No, it's well past the 40 amp curve, and we can see this. We can go straight to the right hand side, look at the 40 amp, and we can see that as long as you get a current of 200 amps, the protective device will disconnect in the time required. What time does it disconnect in? Well, if we look at the 200 and we go up here, we can see that it goes in 0.1 of a second. So it's what's known as an instantaneous disconnection as far as the regs are concerned, and that is our disconnection time, 0.1 of a second. Obviously, if you had something smaller, you may well get a time, but on circuit breakers, we should always pretty much be around that sort of mark. We can then put this into our formula, 586 squared times 0.1. That leaves one more thing to find, K value. Let's go to K, and K we've got to go to chapter 54, BS7671, and there's a few tables. Here's just a few of them, 54.234 and 5. There's also a table 54.6, which would be over the page if you've got the book in front of you. We need to look at the bold headings. You need to read the bold headings and see which description best suits your type of installation. So if we look down the bottom here, this one says if it's steel conduit or trunking as your protective conductor. Well, obviously we're not doing that. But if it was, this is the table we would use. If you're using an armour of a cable, it would use this one here. If we look at table 54.3, values of K for a protective conductor in a cable or bunched with cables. Well, that sounds fairly good to us, so let's have a look at that. Values of K, bunched cables, and we know that our cable we're selecting is a 70-degree thermoplastic cable. And if we look there, we know it's a copper conductor because it's unlikely to be aluminium. Aluminium's not going to start till 50 mil. And we have two values. We have 115 or 103. We are going to select the 115. Why are we selecting 115? Well, if you look at the other one, has an asterisk next to it, and underneath the table it says that 103 is if your cable is above 300 mil. Well, ours is only a 6 mil, so we're definitely into the 115 category. We can now add that to our formula. So we now have a complete formula. We've found all these bits of information. Just finding them, got to get the resistance, check out the video, find the fault current, find the disconnection time, find the K value, put the formulas in. Let's break it down bit by bit and calculate S. So that's the top line. If we square the I and multiply by 0.1, we get this figure. We now need to square root this top line. If we square root the top line, doesn't look so daunting now as a formula, does it? 185 divided by 115. That gives us a value of 1.61. Now that is in millimetres squared. Now this is the minimum size cable. in theory that you could get away with. All we're actually going to do is compare it with our 6mm, and if this figure that we've just calculated is bigger than our 6mm, it means the 6mm is inadequate and would need to be changed. Does that mean we could put a 2.5 cable in? And the answer is no, because if you put a 2.5 cable in, that would change the resistance, which would therefore change the current and may well change the disconnection time. The only bit that would stay the same would be K, so if you did want to change the cable, you'd have to recalculate all the others to confirm whether it is correct. But as isn't, and as is above the 1.61, which means the 6mm is adequate. There you go, that's the adiabatic process and the adiabatic equation. Obviously a lot of the hard work has already been done, but this could save you a lot of money if you're trying to design circuits. Thank you very much.